So joining us today to talk about how to be smart about back to school spending is Sarah Caballero, a financial advisor from First Command. First Command is a longtime partner of Army Wife Network. They are a financial planning firm focused on serving the financial needs of our nation's active duty military families. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah. Very excited to chat with you about back to school things. So would love to hear, tell us a little bit about your role at First Command.
Thank you, Sharita. I'm a financial coach at First Command. So I help military families develop a comprehensive financial plan, and I also help you implement it. As life and priorities change, I coach the families I work with to make sure that their financial behaviors are in sync with their goals.
Well, you have some firsthand experience with this topic today, and I sort of do too. So tell me a little bit about your family.
I do. I'm an Army veteran and a military spouse. We're currently stationed at Fort Rucker, Alabama, the home of Army aviation. My husband, Adam, and I have 5 kids total, 3 of which live with us. And we actually just sold our home this past week and moved into an RV to start a new adventure.
Wow. That's super exciting.
It is.
What are the ages of your kiddos?
So the ones that live here are 9, 7, and almost 2.
Okay, we are in the same jam right now because I've got 2 and they are 8 and 4. So kind of in that same season of life of that elementary toddler.
Chaos.
Oh yeah, that about sums it up. Couldn't have said it better myself. It is chaos. And my son went to school this morning, preschool, for 4-year-olds, and he has blue like marker crosses and X's all up and down his arms and his legs and his belly because that's what he wanted to do last night while I was taking a bath. So I guess that's what I get for engaging in personal hygiene. But right. Chaos sums it up pretty well. We're stationed here at Fort Bliss, and we've been in school for a while now. Grateful to be back in person. But I know that as we were getting ready to ramp up for that again, it looked a little bit different this year because many of us had been doing it at home or homeschooling or virtual the last year or so. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that school spending and not just the school supplies, because most of us have probably already conquered those lists, but just the fall expenses, especially as we look at it ramping back up, maybe quote real life ramping back up sports and activities and extracurriculars post-COVID. So it goes without saying that over the years, public school spending cuts have resulted in decreased funding for classrooms. And as a result, parents are being asked to pick up the slack. Teachers are also feeling that pain too. Money Magazine reports that teachers spend close to $500 per year on average of their own money to supplement classroom supplies. And in addition to that, parents are also shouldering the burden of their child's participation in school clubs, art programs, and sports, which can make these activities maybe even cost prohibitive for families on a budget.
That's right, Sharita. These expenses definitely add up. But with proper planning, this annual ritual can become manageable and even, dare I say, fun. We have a few tips for how to handle back to school expenses on a budget. One is to take stock. To avoid buying things you already have on hand, you can have your kids make an inventory of supplies you already have, like pens and binders, and also cold weather clothing that still works from last year, like mittens and boots.
Great point. Yes, absolutely. Go through that gigantic bin of clothing from last year, or perhaps that moving box we haven't unpacked since the move. I think it's important to see what works, donate what doesn't, and because that really makes sense and it makes financial sense for all parties involved.
Absolutely. Next is to make a list. List every item in order of importance and price everything online to set a preliminary budget. This is a great exercise for your kids to participate in because it allows them more ownership in the process and teaches them to prioritize. You might be surprised by the level of excitement generated by color coding folders and binders, and older kids may even consult Pinterest for low-cost customization ideas. Involving your kids also allows you to set the expectation that they'll need to cover anything off list or out of budget, and it introduces valuable budgeting skills as well.
I kind of had a chuckle as you mentioned, you might be surprised at the level of excitement about color-coded folders and binders, but I personally am not surprised because apparently my daughter is just a mini me and she gets just excited about all things new school supplies, backpacks, office supplies. She even has sticky notes because I don't think a 3rd grader needs sticky notes, but I support that. If she's going to have a habit and get excited about something, I'm totally on board. And because I really love the idea of getting kids involved in this. Not only does it help them start to understand that financial sense and using what's around, but also gets them very excited as they take ownership and realize they might have to have some skin in the game and use their own piggy bank savings if they want new items.
That's right. And sales make a difference. I encourage families to do their homework. Be the first to know about sales and promotions by following your go-to stores on social media. And you can set up email alerts as well. They have price comparison apps out there that you can use to make sure you're getting the best deal. And bottom line, shop on post. It's tax-free. And before you buy clothes, double check your school's dress code to make sure that your student is in compliance.
Great points on all fronts there. I have to say, getting back into the swing of things with school this year was a little bit different because we weren't entirely sure what the school supply list was going to look for, just because things were a little bit delayed here in El Paso. And so we school shop a little bit later, which I don't normally advocate. Usually I'm like, first day of school needs to be boots on the ground. Let's go. But because we were a little bit behind the schedule, we actually saved a good chunk of money by buying a lot of our supplies at some of our local department stores because it was, quote, after school started. You also make a great point about double checking the dress code for schools. These are the things, our kids may want, but it doesn't make a lot of sense if they can't wear it to school, whether that's certain kinds of designs or length of the shorts, or if they actually have to have a uniform. I know some places here in El Paso, some schools do have kind of that dress code uniform. So maybe that's an example of something they perhaps can save up and buy. And as I just mentioned a little bit, timing is a factor too, right?
Yes, absolutely. The third tip is we want to be strategic. So spread your shopping and the spending over several trips. Buy the most urgent items first and then wait on the secondary items. A great example of this is if you know that they're always going to have number 2 pencils, then buy them throughout the year for the following years and have them stocked up, right? Also recycle. If you have more than one child, buy quality items that can go the distance. It's best to avoid trendy styles, or in the South here, they like to monogram everything. But that, if you don't monogram it, then that increases the chances of a peaceful hand-me-down process in the future.
That makes a lot of sense. And I've done that a few times with our kiddos, even with things like alarm clocks. As my daughter outgrows hers and it gets passed down to her brother, like the wake up alarm clock for school has been really helpful. And that's just one less thing that we have to buy. And in my 8+ years as being a mom, I've learned a lot. And, there is that old saying, mom knows best. So talk to us about that.
Yes, there's actually data that shows moms tend to be more price conscious and motivated to search out deals. I don't think anyone here is surprised about that. In fact, dads spend on average 10% more than moms. We know it's different for every family though, but if there is a deal hunter in your family, make sure they are leading the charge.
It makes me laugh a little bit because you can totally tell a difference when I'm doing the grocery shopping versus when my husband does. He is in it to get a mission, and he might not spend as much as me that trip only because he doesn't get distracted by shiny things in the aisle or, being like, oh yeah, we need toilet paper in addition to, lettuce. But God bless him. I love him to death. He ends up making 6 or 7 trips, which over a while certainly adds up. And I'm all about efficiency, both with our time and our money. So Sarah, absolutely. I totally agree that this is great advice for our military families who are sending their students back to school this fall. And I'm sure we have listeners today who could use some more tips for their families on how to financially plan for the future if they want, really facing year-round seasons with our lives. So how can someone get in touch with a financial command advisor if they want to get started with that financial plan?
First Command has offices located near most of the major military installations. And our advisors are available to meet safely in person or remotely. Actually, 8 out of 10 of our advisors are veterans or spouses. So we completely understand the life cycle of a military family. The best way to get started is at our website, www.firstcommand.com. Go there and we'll connect you with a local advisor so you can get started.
I say this every time I chat with one of your team members at First Command, and listeners, I'm not just saying this, I'm not just saying this, like First Command has truly done right by us and really set us up for the future. We still have a while before we actually, officially retire, but, our Army career is coming to an end in the next few years, likely. And you guys have been really, really great for us here in El Paso with Mr. George and really getting us hooked up and not making the process, taking the intimidation out of the process and really empowering us with our finances. So I really appreciate all you're doing with your 180 locations around the world and your employees really understanding the military life. Like they understand how to read an LES and what TSP means and how to work, with what the military has given us. So I think it sounds like a perfect plan of action for our listeners who would like to learn more about all the fantastic resources that First Command has to offer. Sarah, as always, with all of your team members, it's always a pleasure having you on our show today. And I just want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chat about the financial concerns that families face during our back to school season.
Thanks so much, Sharita. It's been a true honor.
And listeners, again, I can't emphasize this enough. If you would like to learn more about First Command, you can find them online, firstcommand.com, or connect with them on social media via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at First Command, or search them on LinkedIn at First-Command-Financial-Services, or they even have a YouTube channel at First Command Channel. If you would like to connect directly with Advisor Sarah Caballero, you can find her on LinkedIn by searching her name. And if you missed any of those connections, don't worry, we'll have outbound links over on Army Wife Network when this podcast goes live. So you can check that out. You can always also email info@armywifenetwork.com and we can get you hooked up with an advisor ASAP. Thanks again to First Command for sharing this empowering information with our followers, for sponsoring Army Wife Network. And now back to our host in the studio.
Such empowering financial information once again. Thank you, Sarah. Remember, listeners, if you would like to tap into the amazing resources offered by First Command, you can find them online via firstcommand.com or on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at First Command. Brittany, what was your key takeaway from Sarah's interview?
Well, one of my key takes from her interview was like the inventory thing of your own supplies. Because I remember when I was getting school supplies, my mom, for some reason, always kept like a million different notebooks, and they were always like stashed away somewhere. Like some would be in a cubby, some would be in her bedroom, some would be up in a closet. And I think she would always buy new notebooks every year without realizing we still had a stack of fresh notebooks somewhere hidden in the house at pretty much all times. So I definitely agree about like knowing what's in your house, because sometimes you probably have like half of the supplies or things you need, back to school shopping. Definitely. We all kind of have like pencils and pens and notepads and some stray box of crayons somewhere in a house, and these are all things that could just be on a list. And we could extend this to other things in our life beyond school shopping. Sometimes you have a hidden stash of something somewhere in the house that if you keep track of, that could definitely save you money when you go to the store.
Your mom and my mom sound very similar. I actually just went through a bunch of boxes and found like half-used notebooks. I don't know why we bought new notebooks every time. It's a good idea to take inventory. I also like the one about getting the kids involved and having them help out. I thought that was great because it helps you and it hopefully helps the kid to understand the cost of everything and helps them to have a little bit of fun too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like if they feel like they're involved with the process more,
Right.
Like that shiny new notebook or new backpack, that feels more like it's their stuff, so they want to take care of it more.
And they get to take charge of that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Absolutely.